For the last 4.5 years, I have been living out of this Toyota Hiace Commuter super long wheelbase self-build. I have now just bought myself a Fiat Ducato Pro build, so let's take a look at both and see how they stack up against each other. I have been travelling Australia in this 2012 Toyota Hiace Commuter super long wheelbase named Gypsy. It has been one of the best vehicles as an entry point into van life. I've absolutely loved her, and I thought it'd be really great to go through some of the pros and cons of a self-build and also this type of vehicle versus the new one that I've bought. So by far the biggest advantage to getting a Toyota Hiace is probably the price point. When I bought this van, it was $32,000. It had done 66,000 Ks. It was fit out as a camper, but it wasn't registered as a camper van. So I did actually have to go through the process of registering it as a camper van, but I only did that about a year or so ago because I had actually lived in the van for a couple of years to really find out what worked for me and what didn't, because the original fit out, it wasn't really set up for full-time van life. So I actually installed an electrical system for 240 power because I work full-time from my van, do YouTube, I do artwork, so I needed the 240 power to charge laptops and cameras and things. So I did pay about $4,500 for the electrical install, and that was for inverter, DC to DC charger, lithium battery, solar panels and sparky cost to install it all. So the alternative for that right now is that you could actually get one of those portable power systems, and they are, you can probably get one for under $2,000, and that might suffice for what you need. So there are alternative options, and had I known about those options at the time, maybe I would have gone that instead. However, I do use electricity to cook all the time. I've not used gas to this point. So yeah, I really did need that good power setup. But yeah, it just means, if you're not too sure about van life, then a self-build is good because you don't have to pay as much money to get into it, grabbing one of these. But do keep in mind that sometimes a self-fit out can still cost quite a few $1,000s. So I've sort of done that over a few years because I've just as I've lived van life, I've worked out what does and doesn't work. Like I worked out I needed a bigger desk space after a period of time, and so I've loved this desk space. My bed, it was originally, when I bought it, the bed was going down this way, but I'm 170 centimetres, so I could sleep that way. So having the bed at the back and going that way worked for me because it created more space here for my desk. I've loved the Lagoon table leg. It just gives me that versatility to sit in different places in the van, so I can swing it around and I can sit at the door and look out the back rather than looking out this window. I can sit here at my little couch that I've made. So there's advantages to doing a self-build in that you can customise it to what works for you, but also as you're living that life, you're going to work out what you need and what you don't need. So rather than going into paying a lot of money for a professional build van and not really knowing what you need for your lifestyle, if you're looking at full-time van life, you might not be. You might be looking at, just weekenders or, just travelling around Australia. So really think about what it is you want out of it. Try and map out what you think is going to work for you. But some people don't like to cook in their van. I prefer to cook in my van. I actually set my van up so that everything was accessible if it was all closed up, because I'm a solo female traveller, so I want to be able to be in my van at night and have everything locked up and everything I need accessible. So my drawers under my bed, they open to the inside of the van, which does cause a bit of a problem when you're trying to plan out other things because you've got to allow for that room to access those drawers and pull them out. So yeah, but other people, if you're a couple that's travelling, you're going to want a bigger bed. Might be happy to access things outside and cook outside. So it's going to depend on the person. So really have a think about what's going to work for you. When it comes to those drawers under my bed, so I've used those Titan drawers as the base of my bed, and look, they've been great. They're really sturdy. But the problem I found with those is that they're really heavy, so it adds a lot of weight to your vehicle. Because of the framework, I don't really think that you get as much storage space out of them. So I'm storing things like my clothes in there, and it's just, I think, because it's like all metal, and so it just takes, the actual framework itself takes up a lot of room. And because it is metal, if I'm sticking my hand in the back of the drawer to pull something out, I'm just constantly cutting my hands on the metal drawers. So that's been a bit of a problem. But, you know, it's also hard to install them because they're really heavy as well. But for the fact that I didn't have to build them, like I could just put them in there, and it's a strong base for my bed, you know, they've been good for that too. So pros and cons to those drawers. And one of the downsides though to doing a self-build, you know, it's great that you can change things and mix it up and personalise it to be more like you. It is a bit of constant maintenance. So on top of everything else I do, it has drained me a lot, you know, because when you've got a home that moves all the time, you've got screws and things coming loose, things will break. So it's great for personal growth because you learn to problem solve and you learn to use tools that you wouldn't normally use. So I have to say that, like, I am so glad that I started out with a self-build and in this size van, because I have learnt so much along the way. So it's given me so much more confidence to try and problem solve and do things myself. But it can get exhausting. So because like I said, I work full time, I do YouTube videos, I've got my art business, and all of, you know, just living van life in general, you've got to top up your water, find somewhere to sleep, you know, go get your food all the time. It's all of that. It can be quite stressful. And so when you've only got yourself to rely on to fix things, it's tiring. And doing a self-build, you know, because you might be changing things as you go, which I've done quite a few times, so that can be quite tiring. But some of the things I've loved about this van are the windows. I love being able to sort of bring the outdoors in, like filming videos like this with all my blinds down. I just feel like I'm bringing nature into the van because I spend a lot of time in here. So the windows have been great for that. However, I do think that it does it reduces your insulation somewhat, because I do have insulated window covers, but once it starts to get to about 7 degrees or below, 7 degrees Celsius, for those of you that aren't in Australia, it does get really cold in here at night. And I haven't been able to clad and insulate here properly because when I put my roof pot on, it has leaked ever since I've had it done. So I haven't been able to do that. I do have put cork cladding here and it does help somewhat, but yeah, I think all those windows, it may just reduce that insulation a bit. So I'll be interested to see. I haven't slept in my new van yet, so I'll be interested to see what the difference is when I start to live in her more, or him more. Not sure yet. The height for me also, so I touched on the pod. So when I bought this van, it was just a normal height Toyota Hiace Commuter. I ripped the headlining out because I was slightly hunched over, and once I ripped the headlining out, my head would just sort of graze the top of the van. And as I said, I'm about 170 centimetres, so it was just, because I spend so much time in here, the height was really bothering me. So I think for long-term van life, being able to stand in your van is quite important. And storage, so I've outgrown the storage in here. I need more storage. I've loved not having anything up above my head. I quite like that openness. And I'll talk about the new van in a moment, about the storage space in there. But in here, just because this van is a little bit smaller, I preferred to keep all the storage low. And because I've got my art business, I recently, you know, decided that I would do prints and send them myself and do them myself. So I've got a massive printer, I've got all these envelopes and packaging, and it's just taken up so much room in this van. So it's not going to be that case for everybody. So I've really outgrown the storage capacity in this van. But you might do it different. You might have storage up the top. I do find it a bit frustrating with the Hiaces how they curve in a bit at the top, but I think the newer ones may not do that so much. So yeah, I think it's important to think about storage and really think about what you've got. You know, I cook with a lot of electrical appliances as well, so I've got to find room for those, my clothes, you know, my laptops and cameras and all of that. And driving this vehicle, so the Toyota engines are just, they go forever. They're tough as anything. This vehicle has never ever let me down. It's been such a reliable vehicle. As I said, she'd done 66,000 Ks when I bought her. She's done 220 now, and I've had her for 4.5 years, so I've done a few Ks. I do service her regularly, so twice a year, every 10,000 Ks. But yeah, it's just, it's easy to jump start her. All the mechanics are basic. Very few things it'll beep at me for, which I love. I love that sort of basic mechanics because it doesn't scare me to look at it. You know, I grew up in an era where we were taught how to top up our oil and our windscreen wiper fluid and our coolant, and so I'm sort of familiar with those old school, you know, engines. I'm not a mechanic, by the way. But when I look at the newer vehicles, I'm like, oh, and there's a lot more electrical stuff going on in newer vehicles, so they scare me a little bit more. So it's the basic engine has been great. And that's the thing about a smaller vehicle, like everything, it's just a bit easier, it's easier to clean, it's just less things to go wrong. So in summary, my girl Gypsy has been the best vehicle for me over the last 4.5 years. I can't recommend a Toyota Hiace enough. If that's the price point that you're looking at, if you're looking for something that's easy to drive, easy to park, you can't go past the Toyota. I would actually go a Toyota Hiace over any other vehicle this size, because I think that I'm one of those people that believes that as long as you've got the good bones, you know, if you were to buy a house and it had good bones, anything else you can change and fix. So I think that if standing is not such an issue for you, you're spending more time outdoors, it's a good starter vehicle. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to like and comment and potentially hype if you're able to, because it does help smaller channels like mine to grow and be found, which means that I can keep on making videos like this for you into the future. So what's the biggest advantage to upgrading to a Fiat Ducato? The space. So this is a 2023 Fiat Ducato, registered in 2024. It has done 43,000 kilometres and I've paid $115,000 for it. I did purchase it secondhand through Dove Campervans, but they did do the original fit out. So they have been doing campervan fit outs since the 60s. So they're well experienced, been doing it a long time. So they did this original one, sold it to a lady, she drove around Australia, and then she brought it back to them to resell it. So I do still have all the warranty and everything under there because I bought it through them. So the biggest advantage to having the Fiat Ducato is the size. It is overall just a bit bigger than the Toyota Hiace. And look, I looked at quite a few different vehicles. I actually was just getting so tired of searching because I was really stuck on the Toyota for their mechanical reliability. I really just couldn't push past it. And it wasn't until I really went out and I went to Dove and I was like, just show me what you've got. And then I sort of, once you speak to someone else in the know, you start to feel a bit more confident about going with a different brand. So I did look at some of their Mercedes Sprinters as well, but they really do more four-wheel drives, and the four-wheel drives I found, like, they're amazing. They're really beautiful vehicles, but I just don't need a four-wheel drive. And I found that the Mercedes were like, I felt a little bit more boxed in. I can hear there's a little fairy around at the back door. The Mercedes they just felt a little bit more boxed in for me on the inside. I really liked the space of the Fiats better. So yeah, the difference between the Fiat and the Toyota is that the Fiat is 6 meters in length, whereas the Toyota is about 5.5. So really that length is coming from the engine. So the engine in a Toyota Hiace is underneath the seats, whereas in the Fiat it's out the front. So it's a bit more nose out the front of the vehicle. The width, so the Fiat is 187 centimetres wide, whereas the Toyota Hiace is 171 where my bed level is, which is about at the bottom of the windows. Obviously it curves in, the Toyota, but 171 there. And the height, so the Fiat is 2.8 metres in height, although I think with the reverse cycle aircon unit on the top it's 2.9, and it's 2.3 of the super long wheelbase Toyota Hiace. But with the pod, I think that added an extra 30 centimetres in height when I had that installed. So there's some of the comparisons when it comes to actual metrics of width, height and length. Now the Fiat Ducato has a 5-star safety rating, and I actually have no idea what constitutes that safety rating or what the safety rating of the Toyota is. However, what I can say, after driving it a couple of times, I feel safer driving it. So it has a lot more room in the front cab, so if there was an impact, you sort of feel like there's a bit of buffer between you and whatever's impacting you. It does feel, it sort of drives a bit more like a truck, so it feels, I don't even know how to explain it, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to use any technical mechanical terms here, I'm talking to you from experience. I think with the Hiace, you sort of feel a bit more of the crosswinds, whereas you feel a bit more grounded in the Fiat. I don't know whether that's because it's a wider body, or it's because it's got a heavier chassis maybe, because it's a more of like, it's built to carry more weight. And I don't actually know what the weight of this is. I'll have to find out and I'll put it in the description below. But you know, the Toyota Hiace weighs 2.8 with all my things in it. And I have to admit, I wasn't quite sure about the Fiat when I started, because like I said, I was really, you know, hung up on keeping a Toyota. And I did watch some videos about the older Fiats having some gearbox issues. Now, that was sort of pre-2018, so post-2019 they actually took them off the market and they worked on those issues, and there haven't been any issues since. So everyone's had really good reports on the Fiat Ducatos since, and they're actually one of the most popular vans for camper van life. So now that I've bought one, and I knew I was buying one, I see them everywhere. So I kind of see them and the Mercedes, you know, they seem to be the two most popular camper vans. And I have heard that Toyota, Fiat and Mercedes aren't going to be making petrol vans anymore. So that's interesting that they're all going to go to either diesel or maybe even electric. So all this extra room for me is great, but it has a hidden advantage as well. So with van life, I typically started off doing a lot of stealth camping, so I was pretty much moving every day. But over the last year, I've done a lot more off-grid in campgrounds, and I've really just been sitting still for a week. And I've quite enjoyed that. It's brought a lot more calm to my life. It's made my life a lot more peaceful. So having a bigger vehicle means that I can store more water. So in the Toyota Hiace, I could store 40 litres of water under my sink. I could carry another 30 litres on my roof in 3 separate 10-litre tubs, but it meant that I had to lug those things of water off the roof, which, you know, it was good for building muscle, but not so convenient. Whereas the water tank in here is underneath the vehicle, and I think it's a 110 litre tank. And look, you could actually put an undercarriage water tank in the Toyota Hiace if you wanted to as well. But it just means that I'll be able to sit still for longer because I can carry more water. This vehicle also has more electrical battery storage. So in the Toyota Hiace, I had a 200 amp hour battery, and I couldn't really upgrade that because I didn't have the room. So I started off with a 100 amp hour battery, and I had that for like 3 years. And it was fine because I was moving every day and I never carried gas in that vehicle. So it was when I started to go off grid, it really started to annoy me. And that was when I upgraded to a 200 amp hour, which meant I could get maybe 3 or 4 days off grid. But if you're camping in locations like this where you've got a lot of shade, I didn't have flexi panels that were separate to the vehicle, so I could only keep get the sun from my fixed panel on my roof. So I was really struggling, it was really bothering me, and in the last month or so I actually did buy myself a little gas cooker just to get me by because I was getting so annoyed with it. So this vehicle has a 300 amp hour battery. It didn't have an inverter to start with, so it was only for shore power, you know, to plug into shore power and for DC power in the vehicle, but I needed 240 off grid, so we installed the inverter for that. So I can use 300 amp hour now, but I also have a gas cooker. So I think it's going to be great having both of those because it just means that, yeah, I can stay off grid for longer once again. I also have a 150 litre fridge, which I am super excited about. I think my other one was like a 40 or 50 litre fridge. and it has a little freezer section in it, but it doesn't really freeze. This one has a freezer. So I'm super excited because I can do big cook-ups and I can freeze meals, because when you're on the go in van life, it's super frustrating when you want to eat a healthy meal but you don't have the time to cook it. So I'm just so excited about that. I have an actual pantry, so I can actually go and stock up on food. So I can just, oh, I'm just so excited about it. The relief I have, I can't describe. So comparative to having the Toyota, like I'd have to shop every few days because I eat a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables and meats and things. And so it's just going to mean that I can live a slower van life. I don't have to be on the move so much to top up my power, you know, or go and get food or go and get water. It's gonna make my life even more peaceful. So I'm a bit excited about that. I can stay in magic locations like this for longer if I don't get itchy feet. So a couple of the other things I have in this van that I didn't have in the Toyota is a microwave. Now, I don't really use microwaves to heat my food anyway, but I'm going to love it for my heat packs. I love my heat packs at night, so I'm super excited about that. I also have a reverse cycle air conditioning unit. I think it's Dometic. So everything in this van is top quality equipment, which is great. It's just, you know, makes me feel better about reliability. Now, the aircon, I could probably run it off the electrical system in here off grid, but it would only be for a short period of time. Really, it's probably more for shore power if I'm in a caravan park, and I'm not in a caravan park very often. And look, to be honest, I'm quite happy to sort of experience the different weather conditions in van life. That's kind of what it's about. And I don't really like aircon, I have to admit. It's like, I'd much rather have my van open to fresh air. In saying that, I may still use it, who knows. It might be really nice on a cold morning just to put a little bit of heating on before I get out of bed. One of the other things I have in this van is a bathroom. I have a toilet and a shower. So yes, I have been without both for years. And I have a gym membership for showers, and I'll probably still use that because obviously, you know, the water is still finite in here. So if I want to be off grid for longer, then I don't want to go through my water too much. So, and obviously it will use gas for the hot water. So I don't know how often I'll use it, if at all, but we'll see how we go. I say I won't use it, who knows? I might do and I might love it. The toilet, so I have just had like a sealed jar that I've been using. So as a solo female traveller, I don't really want to be outside the van at night. I don't want to be going to public toilets on my own at night. So that's why I've kept that, and then I empty it in the mornings. So I don't know how often I'll use the toilet in here. Like, it would be great to use that rather than a drop toilet, but then I've never really had to empty a toilet into a silage dump point. So I might really get disgusted by that and not want to do it. I don't know. I'll see how I go. And look, the biggest pro for me is this is just going to make my life easier. As I said, I do work full time. I put out videos on YouTube every week. I have my art business. And so doing it, like all the maintenance I've done on Gypsy, you know, the self-build I've done in her, the constant having to top up my water and my power and the food, you know, it's been a challenge. It's been a real challenge. So being in this van with the extra storage space, the extra water, the extra power, you know, it's going to make my life so much easier. So it means that I can focus more on YouTube and my work and my art, and I can just have a bit more like personal downtime. So I'm really excited about this new journey for myself. I hope you have found the comparisons between the two interesting. I think that, you know, you get what you pay for, and when you go for a vehicle that is just quality, so it'll hold its value because it's got all quality equipment in here. You know, all the cabinetry is quality, it's double glazed windows, it's just a good vehicle. So as long as I take care of the mechanics on it, yeah, it'll be good for resale. So yes, I hope you found this video helpful, and many happy travels to all of you.
On the road, I've been away for far too long. But now I'm on my way back home. I hear the west winds calling out my name. They telling me to head your way, down your road and past your gates. Keep your eyes on the horizon. I was looking to the